Hi, we're here talking with Roy Mayorga of Stone Sour, and currently Roy is in the studio recording the new record that's going to be out in 2010. How you doing, Ray? Some questions about that. How you doing, Ray?
I'm great. How you doing, Phil?
So tell me a little bit about the planning that has
this
led
record
up to
is
this new record. The first one that you've done.
So far as well, since the guys, Jim and Corey, have been on the road for the past couple of years with Slipknot, the rest of us have been separately just writing songs to contribute to the next Stone Sour record. So I've been working on my stuff as well in my studio here in L.A. and wrote like maybe 20, 25 songs and just picked maybe like a good 6 of them out of the 20 that I thought were decent enough and submitted them to the guys. We're all like submitting songs to each other, and they're sending, like Josh and Sean are sending me songs via internet, and I'd track drums to them, and we just send them back and forth to each other. That's how we've been writing.
So you're mailing songs back and forth. Do they, in this process, do these songs become collaborations of the whole group?
Pretty much, yeah. At the end of the day, yeah. But basically, the way we've been working, we've been, like I said, been separately writing the songs and then just presenting them to each other, and then each person puts their twist on whatever the other individual who wrote the song came up with, like, or they might even hear something that's different that they would want to add, and we just change it, kind of like rearrange and stuff like that.
Do you
core ideas?
Do you come up with? Do the other guys ever come up with drum part ideas for you for songs that they've already started?
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, Josh would write something on what's that? Easy Drummer, like just an idea of a pattern, and I would just elaborate more on it. But for the most part, the songs that I come up with, of course, I come up with my own drum parts on it. But yeah, I would take whatever they come up with and just elaborate, or I would just tell them, just send me the track without the drums, so I can come up with something that they wouldn't have thought of, and then they'll play me what they had written originally, and then I'll kind of like marry the two.
Okay. What kind of setup do you have in your studio, and how do you put your initial tracks down?
Setup as far as recording?
As far as the drum setup.
Drums, okay. I got a DW VLT set. For now, usually I play with 2 kick drums, but now just to make recording a little easier, and I just use 1 kick. So I got like a 24 by 18 kick, a 12, 14, 18 tom, 14 by 6.5 snare. Just keep it simple like that. 2 crash, ride, a couple chinas, and some radio bells, Sabian radio bells and stuff.
Do you think in terms of the drums when you're composing, or are you using other instruments to start songs?
I start on guitar most of the time, believe it or not. It depends. Like if I'm jamming by myself, like when I'm warming up and I come up with a cool drum pattern, yeah, maybe I'll record that pattern and write something to that. But for the most part, like 80% of the time, or 80-90% of the time, I usually come up with the songs neither on guitar or piano, and then go from there. I'll write to a click track and then see what I come up with.
It's an interesting thing. Like a lot of the older music, the Motown and the R&B and so forth, like you can just write the drums and the bass line, and you've got the song.
Right.
More progressive music, it could be more like classical, where it's really about the melody or the riff.
Right.
That starts the song.
Yeah, it depends. Like I don't sit and say like, oh, I'm going to start on guitar. Usually it'll start with, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have a melody in my head, and I'll go to my gear and just play the melody, and then write around the melody, like write the chord changes around the melody, then write the drums. It's so many different ways you can start, a song.
Who's going to produce the record?
We're still talking about that. It's still up in the air right now at the moment. Okay.
But we expect to hear this in 2010?
I'm sorry?
We expect to hear it in 2010?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think hoping to get it out by May. Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit before the last Stone Sour record. You just mentioned you were born in New York. How did you come out to L.A.?
I came out to L.A. about 10 years ago, like summer of '99. It was right after I was briefly in Soulfly in the beginning, like '97. Me and Max Cavalera started Soulfly together. I did like a couple of years with Soulfly, and then we parted ways. And then I wanted to change, so I ended up moving to Los Angeles. You know, there really wasn't anything left for me in New York. You know, it was kind of hard living there, being a musician. You know, and trying to make it as a musician there. So I figured move out to L.A. and, you know, in the heart of it all, and, you know, try to put something together, and you know, ended up getting where I wanted to go eventually. It took a bunch of years, but you know, it was worth it.
So in those interviewing years, did you find yourself playing in a lot of situations, a lot of different bands?
Many. I was full-on mercenary drummer. I mean, I always kind of have been, but not without a choice, you know. Like a lot of the bands that I've played in the past would have a lifespan of like a year to 2 years to, you know, to just me thinking, okay, I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of in this situation, so I'm going to move on, or the band just breaks up.
So band breaking up is a huge issue. So what do you think is the biggest challenge or the biggest stress, you know, when you're in a band that keeps it from continuing as a coherent unit?
You want to rephrase that again?
Well, you know, if a band ends after a year, because some of the members either they can't hack it musically, financially, whatever. What's usually the biggest reason for that?
Well, just bands trying to, you know, survive. Musicians trying to, like, you know, work to live, basically. And some can handle it, some can't. You know, some are luckier than others. You know, some can work 2 jobs or 3 jobs and be able to practice, you know, 3 times a week. Some of us can't, you know. Yeah. So that was my thing in New York. I was working 2 or 3 jobs just to survive, and I was lucky to get to practice twice a week.
It's not enough.
It's not, and you have to deal with other band members, you know, conflicting schedules, because some of us worked at night, some of us worked during the day, so we're screwed, you know. Yeah. And taking off of work to do gigs, you know, stuff like that. You know, that's basically the biggest pain in the ass of starting new again and living in an urban environment. Yeah. You know, that's what I went through.
So with Stone Sour, you were called in really right at the last minute on that record.
Yeah, right at the last minute. I didn't really know the guys. Corey kind of knew. He's more of an acquaintance. Jim was as well. At the time, actually, when they called me, I was actually rehearsing on my own, preparing for a Sepultura tour that I got called to do. It was Igor Cavalera. Took some time off because he just had a baby at the time, so I went and toured with Sepultura. But I was preparing at the time in my rehearsal room, and then I got the call from Nick Raskulinecz saying, well, the drummer has, you know, left the band, left the situation, and they need someone to come in to play the drums. So I was like, hey, will you be interested? I'm like, absolutely, I'd be interested. So, you know, I walked in there and basically just did about 4 or 5 songs a day, 3 songs a day, something like that. Just listened to them and, you know, got into them and just jumped in the lion's den and just started tracking.
It sounds like it's going to be a great thing, this new record, with all the prep time that you guys have and touring behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, now we know each other.
Being a real band.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thanks.
Right on.